What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Deadly Draw podcast. Just me by myself today, guys. Nick and Ryan are both out doing whitetail things. Nick's over in Wisconsin for a couple week stretch with his family, and Ryan has family at his house for the rifle season here in Minnesota. So just me today. Sorry. I know it's unfortunate for you guys, but yeah. Pretty cool episode this time. I had the honor of joining a couple of cool cats over in North Dakota for their deer camp. I went over there to do some filming for Johnny Stewart and Bill Thompson from Spartan Forge for just a 2025 deer camp project for over there. So awesome experience. Those guys welcomed me in with open arms, and I look forward to hopefully being able to go back next year. But throughout the process of being out there and basically living with these dudes for a week, we kind of had a discussion about, we wanted to do a live one while we were out there, but you know, when you only have 6-7 days to try and get as many hunts in as you can, and you know, amongst everything else, you know, just trying to live and keep the fire going and do everything else when all your daylight hours are spent in a tree, time gets pretty minimal. So unfortunately we didn't get to do the in-person one, but next best thing here, Bill and I are going to hop on and sit down and talk about, to me, hopefully it'll be a little bit of a recap on the North Dakota trip, as well as the birth and continuation of, in my opinion, the best hunting app there is, Spartan Forge. Who better to talk to than the person who created it and lives it every day? I even witnessed him as far as answering customer service emails and stuff while we were out in camp. I mean, that's how serious this guy is about this company and how much he believes in it and strives to keep it going and to make it better continuously. So I'll leave you guys with that. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for watching or listening. There he is. What's up, Bill?
Dave, how are you?
Good. Just bouncing back a little bit from getting back home here. So
yeah, we were just together at DeerCamp like a week and a day, right?
Yeah. How did the rest of the stuff go? Your guys' trip home and everything?
Good. Johnny and I are machines. We made it back here in like 21 hours. So.
Yeah, I talked to him on the phone. I can't remember. It was like within a couple hours of when you guys would have been scheduled to be home. And he was already up on the mountain. Like, he's like, I'm already up at deer camp. I'm going out tomorrow morning. It's supposed to snow tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't that quick to get back out. I'm hunting tomorrow morning. And then probably Saturday morning before I leave, but that's about it.
Okay.
Doe patrol.
Right on. Did you tag a buck already? Because you're in PA, correct?
No, I'm in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
No, I've got no bucks here. I almost tagged a buck while I was in Pennsylvania, and then just had him. I mean, we can talk later, but I had him walking right into me, and just the only way he could have walked where I couldn't have shot him is the way that he walked in, and then he caught me in the tree before I was pulled back. And he bounced off to like 45 yards. And then when I went to go range him, my range is on like you've seen it. It's like my front, binoculars. Yep. It's attached to that. So like when I ranged him, I just dropped it. Like I didn't even try to put it into my harness, and it just bounced like below me twice, and that was enough movement for him, and he was out. It's like a 9-year-old deer, probably 145.
Nice.
10-pointer, big deer. No one had. There's like 4 different people hunting them. No one had seen them on the hoof, so that one hurt.
Yeah, I bet. Is that public?
Yep.
Okay.
I pretty much do public except for when I'm with the Seek One guys. Then it's like access or permission, but otherwise I'm pretty much doing public. No, that's not true. I've got one permission spot in Virginia, but it's a doe patrol spot, and then I do public in Virginia.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, how do you feel the trip went? Obviously, you were successful out there. Johnny was successful.
It all happened so fast. Like, you put so much work into it. Like, Johnny and I were out there in June or July scouting, and you really can't get a lot of scouting done in the spots that we hunt then because you saw how thick it is.
Yeah.
Now
Nasty.
just imagine that thick with tree leaves all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, you can't, there's not much you can do in there. Except for maybe like the spot where I was hunting. It's still thick in there though. Like even summertime, it's thick. And then we went back again in September, and we had scouted like 7 or 8 different spots. I think maybe you saw 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the name of the game there is kind of like go farther than most people will, or at least like find non-traditional access. So like that spot where I killed, we accessed from like a turnaround that was off of a dam. But it's not, when you look at that property, I won't say the property, but when you look at that property, it's not a traditional access point. In fact, when you park there, there's a no trespassing sign. If you didn't know better, you would think. So we called the DNR and said, hey, we're going to park here and walk into this public here. And they said, as long as the property that you're walking over is unposted, and it's not planted agriculture, you're fine to go in that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if you were to access from the public's, like when you look at our app and you look at where the parking is, if you were to access from the parking, you're looking at like a 1.5 mile walk. But if you're just willing to get a little creative, then it becomes like, a 600, 700 yard walk, much more manageable.
Yeah, for sure.
So we scouted that spot. We felt good about those. The spot where you and Johnny killed was actually, I think he had looked at it, but not actually had been in there. So I think it was kind of like a buzzer beater spot for him. But if he had even stayed in the spots that we scouted at, as you know, there were still bucks coming in through. Actually just yesterday or the day before, we had shooters come in to my first spot again.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a good spot. And so I was pretty happy it all lined up, and it happened so fast. Like you put all that. The point I was trying to make is you put all that work in, and then you get in. You're in the stand for 2 hours. Buck runs in. Have to yell at him to stop, and it's over in 30 seconds. And then that's it. That's the season. You know what I'm saying? Or at least the North Dakota season. So it's one of those things where you go. Like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I ate tag soup all season on bucks. Like I saw some decent like 100s, 110s, 120s, but just like we were seeing in North Dakota, but I held out and ate tag soup, and so then you're just like, man, it's, I didn't get it done, and you're upset about it, and then when you do get it done, it happens so quick that you're like, I don't even know what happened. Like it happened and it's over. It's a weird thing. I'm sure you know what I mean, but
yeah, a little bit bittersweet.
Yeah, bittersweet, and also like. You almost get jealous of your buddies, even if they haven't killed. Like if they're out there still getting after it, you're almost jealous of them, So I was out scouting for snide a couple of days. Jason, another guy that was in camp, and didn't learn anything in the spots that I went to, but also not learning something, then where not to go and where not to hunt. You're not going to roll the dice in that place. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
So when you guys were over there in the earlier season, did you get any time to glass any bucks, or were you just mainly just boots on the ground and trying to get access points?
There in the past, but the way that it works is if you're not hunting early September, at least there in North Dakota, those bucks will shed velvet and they'll be in a different area. It might only be 4, 5, 6, 700 yards away, but they won't be in that exact area. So it gets. What the heck's going on behind me? It'll be a different area, or you'll be focused. If you see a buck that you want and you're not hunting the opener, they're super patternable in the opener. But if you're not hunting September 1st or August 31st when the season opens, glassing is not going to do you a lot of good. It'll give you a nice idea of kind of like inventory or where there might be areas, but a lot of those bucks will be moved out of those areas. So what we were focusing on. Our scouting early season was just focusing on doe bedding and learning where the does were. Like in that spot that I killed, there was doe bedding to the north. And I don't know how much you guys watched to the north, but I was watching to the north, and there was 5, 6, 7 doe that were coming in and out of there. One of them actually busted me, which is weird, the day I killed. But the wind was northwest, so my wind must have swirled somehow or something. But I was watching them behind me, and you really got them, because it's so thick. Like, if you're not watching for them, you're not going to see them.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something where a bit of movement or sound is gonna tip you off. You have to actually be looking. So North Dakota is one of those areas, and like thick areas in general are those areas where you can't be on your phone. You can't be on your phone. You can't be You have to be on the clock the entire time that you're there, or you'll miss them.
When we went and sat that spot the day after you had killed over there, and yeah, I mean, even with the leaves and everything off of it, it's just insane how little you can see into that stuff. And I mean, how quiet they can tiptoe around in there. I mean, we had a few deer kind of skirt us, not due to wind or anything like that, but just kind of their natural way. Yep. And they just slipped right through there.
Did you notice the 3 shooting lanes that I had?
Yeah. Yep.
So like the far right, there was a shooting lane, and then right directly in front of you, if you're on the back of the tree, it would have been directly in front of you. I guess you guys were probably in saddles, right? Are you in a stand or a saddle?
I was in a saddle.
Yeah, so you're probably facing one, and then there's one to the left, right? And then anything else will be, I mean, there's other spots where you can make shots, but they might be 40, 50-yard shots.
Yep.
Your kill shots, your lanes for your kill shots, there's 3 of them. So when my buck came through, he came in from that creek. He worked to the right. When he was in my first, I was already drawn, and I forgot to turn on the camera like an idiot. So I'm already drawn, and he comes through the first shooting lane, and I just made one of those noises. Didn't stop, and he's like trotting. He's not walking. Goes to the second one, and I'm like doesn't stop, and then the third one I was probably like hey, and then he stops and looks up, and I was aiming low, like almost for white fur, because I knew he was going to jump the arrow, and he jumped so much. I don't know if you looked at the shot, but it was high lung. It was right on line, but it was high lung, and it clipped both of his lungs. But the weird thing about it is I never found an arrow, and I also never saw an exit wound. So I'm thinking that maybe it hit bone and then was kind of loose in there, and then as you run, it fell out.
Sure.
Because I wasn't 100% sure that I saw him fall, but I'm 95% sure that I saw him fall. He like went in a huge circle and basically came right back to where he entered from the creek. But he was dead in less than a minute.
But yeah, it was pretty tough for us to even hang out in the tree after we had got that text or that call from you. And Johnny's like, man, we just got up here like 20 minutes ago. So he wanted to sit through that midday spell before we got back to the cabin or got back to...
Because it was like, what, 9:45? So did you guys scout that morning, or what did you do that morning?
Yeah, so we left our set in from the evening before, knowing that the wind was going to do a 180 and we'd be blowing back into the bedding that morning. And he only wanted to sit that spot for about the first hour because we were only 150 yards off the ag. So he thought if anything was going to be coming through at gray light, and then after that, our scent was going to be blowing back toward that bedding. So we wanted to get further downwind and see if we could catch them maybe getting up, moving midday. So that's what we ended up doing. And we scouted a little bit and then kind of found a little bit of a low spot between the 2 thickets, to where it looked like there was quite a bit of travel through there. So we picked a spot there, got in, got set up, got all the camera gear and stuff set up. And then you had text like 15, 20 minutes after that saying that you just shot one. And so, yeah, then he called you and stuff, and you guys kind of had a conversation on what was going to happen there. But
yeah, getting them out of there was a pain. But thankfully I got permission from the property owner to the east, was able to get a cart in there and carted them out, because pulling them out of there, like I was farther back than even John was, you know what I mean? Like as the crow flies to the access, I was a good 600-700 yards in.
Yeah, that would have been
using that and not that 600 or 700 yards is a long ways to go, but pulling them through that bush where all that thick is just
impossible almost, especially by yourself.
Yeah, and my deer was heavy. Like, John's didn't even seem as heavy as mine did. Mine had a ton of fat. Mm-hmm. John's was bigger antlers, but I think mine was probably bigger body by 20 or 30 pounds. That deer was all of 250, I think, like easily.
Yeah, he was a big deer.
Yeah, he was a big boy.
So jumping over to, if you don't mind, diving into kind of the history of Spartan Forge. And I know you've probably had to go over it 1,000 times, but for anybody on our end that may not know or might be interested in hearing the story, if you wouldn't mind covering some of that.
Yeah, for sure. So I joined the military in about 2001. Well, actually, I joined in 2000. I was 17. And I was a military intelligence guy, enlisted guy for the first 10 years, and I was a warrant officer for my last 12 years. And I really worked in a lot of different intelligence disciplines while I was in the military. Computer network operations, computer development, signals intelligence, foreign instrumentation signals, radar, human intelligence, like, it's a bad moniker, but what you might consider like spy operations, debriefing people, clandestine work. And then I took all of those skills into the Joint Special Operation community. I was in a special missions unit and just continued doing that work for about 12 years. And I have always been like a rifle hunter, I guess is the best way to put it. Like when I was younger, set up, how it is. And it's probably the same in Minnesota as in North Dakota, but, you leave some standing corn or you put some corn out in the field. Buck pulls a hot doe pulls a buck out into the field, and you're shooting a big buck now. And that's kind of the game, is you sit there in an ice ice shed, like what we would use as ice fishing sheds. We'd pull out to like a tree line, sit in there with the game on, warm, and shoot him with a rifle. And then I had a brother-in-law in probably 2009 or so that got me into bow hunting. And bow hunting for me was like, to me, it's the closest analog to combat operations. I always say it, and it's kind of cliche, but it's the truth. When a hunter puts the work in, kind of like we did this year or any other year, and you read the sign and you put things together, and we didn't have trail cameras. Like on the spot that I killed, we didn't have trail cameras of pictures of bucks until 3 days before we killed. Like they just started patrolling those doe areas. But we knew from the historical rubs, from the scrapes when we were there earlier in the year, there were still, like I was there in March, there were scrapes that were open in that area. We put the cameras out. We weren't getting the does or the bucks, but we knew that the bucks would eventually show up because the does start coming to heat. They want to check them all. Mm-hmm. So you do that kind of research, and then you put it all together, and you're on public, and you kill like, a 140, Johnny's was probably 150. Mine would have been 140, 145 if he had his G2. Mm-hmm. You kill a buck of that caliber, and you get like for the people, I don't know, maybe not everyone gets this. What I get is kind of like everything but my prefrontal cortex melts away, and I'm just in like action mode. I don't get like, generally, and I say that, it just happened to me. So in PA, after watching this buck walk up to me for like 3 minutes, then I started to get nervous or like jumpy. But generally, when it happens, if it happens within a minute, I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just acting. And the world kind of melts away. I no longer have an internal dialogue. I'm just in action mode. It's the only way it's kind of like when someone throws a baseball at you and you didn't know they were gonna, and you just kind of put your hand up and catch it. Mm-hmm. There's no dialogue there. There's nothing happening. It's just a response thing. Yep. And when you can get that type of moment to last for a few minutes, it's a very surreal experience. And I always say it's not adrenaline. It's probably got to do with adrenaline, but it's not nervousness. There's no thought involved. It's just a heightened sense of things, I guess is the best way to put it. Your senses are up, and the other thing that happens is you kind of like your ego melts away. Like there is no you, there's only thought and the task. And that I also got that in the military. Actually, I first got that in the military. And when it's happening during something that's important, where you've done the same amount of intelligence research, setting things up, accounting for variables, planning, all of that stuff is taking place. When all of that happens, it's a transcendent experience, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not something that you can just tap into and do. You are a product of the environment, and the environment is forcing this out of you. And I am addicted to that feeling. It's an addiction for me. And in the
Almost in the
military,
sense like trained fight or flight, almost.
yeah, yeah, or a honing of the fight or flight, right?
Okay.
It's more like a master, not mastery. Of course, we can't master it because if I could have mastered it, I would have been able to think when that 145 mountain buck was walking in. You get fleets of time where you can master it or you can
Sure.
exercise control over it. And when you can do that, you sense everything, you feel everything. You can hear a mouse pissing on cotton. Like it's just everything is devoted to this one thing. So I got that in the military, and I actually got a lot of anxiety when I was leaving the military because I was like, what job am I going to be able to do where this is going to be presented to me? And I think this is my theory, and I'm just a dumb grunt, but it's my theory that a lot of guys leave the military and they can't recreate that, or they can't get back into that space where they're surrounded by their brothers, they're doing something meaningful, and the world melts away, and now it's just you and the task. I think it drives guys crazy when they leave the military and they no longer, because you've been at the peak of the mountain reliably, and you've performed, and it's a great feeling, especially when you're doing it on behalf of God and country. And you form bonds with people. And so when I started hunting, I got that same type of feeling. Now, it's much shorter feeling. Like sometimes in the military, I'd have it for like a half a day. And then you would adrenaline drop afterwards, and you just sleep for 12 hours, 15 hours afterwards because your body's just been running at its highest, RPMs for 6-7 hours. So Spartan Forge really, for me, started as a quasi-coping mechanism where I thought to myself, this is something I can do post-military, where not only am I going to be working on something I love, I'm hopefully going to help other young men and women get the same sense of meaning. Because one of the things that our culture kind of fails with these days, and it's something I'm trying to address at a micro level, but I'm hoping that through our media and through the things that we do, especially going forward, we can start addressing it at a macro level. But we've kind of lost initiation rites for young men. Like there used to be an initiation rite. Like for a Native American boy, it might be like you're going to go out on this hill for 3 days and not eat, and you're going to wait for some dreams, and then you're going to come back and kill an animal, and we're going to celebrate you. And now from this day forward, you're going to be treated as a man. And we kind of, some of the places that we still have it is like maybe like college football or high school football, but not everybody does that, or college, high school sports. You'll get some of that, but I don't think it's quite at the level, at least it wasn't for me. I played in state football a couple of times and stuff like that. You get close to it, you get glimpses of it, but you're also not getting treated like a man. You know what I mean? Like you can watch an NFL football player act like a child until he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
But we have to get back to a spot where we're telling young men, like, you're going to go and do this wild thing that you've never thought of doing. And from this day forward, you're going to be treated as a man. And I say this about men because women, nature will impose womanhood on a woman. A woman will get her period and she'll, grow up really quick, and they're psychometrically, they're going to be a lot more mature, and they're going to be thinking about the future, and they're better at saving, and they're better at thought processes. And, nature is going to say to a woman, you're ready to have a baby. Like, it's here now. Whereas men can live like children. You just go on social media. You can watch 40-year-old men acting like they're 17 years old. And so the military does that kind of too. But if I can participate in doing that for other kids, or showing them that pattern, like we talked about patterns in DeerCamp, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. If we can show that pattern to people and let them know that there's, for military people, that there's a tribe that awaits for them post-service, but also for young men, letting them know that there's a tribe where they can initiate and start treating like you tell a kid to go kill an animal, it's time to start acting like a man. It's time, now hold you accountable like a man. So Spartan Forge became that vector for me, where when I got out, I could do a lot of the similar things that I do in the military, which was, I'm not a door kicker, I'm not a long tabber. It wasn't my job to go out and kill the enemy, but it was my job to set up the battlefield in a way where risk was brought down for a commander, and that other people could go out and do this. And I might be right there with them when it's happening, or flying in an airplane right above them. So I'm ultimately responsible. But yeah, that was that transition for me. And just like by the grace of God, it worked out for me. And my transition from military service to civilian service was extremely fluid. And I'm super thankful that it worked out the way that it did. So that's Spartan. So Spartan Forge was the outbirth of that. And Spartan Forge really, it starts like, obviously when you open the app, it's a map. There's mapping as an aspect. But if you spend 10 minutes on there, you'll see there's so much more that feeds into it, variable analysis wise, whether it's historical weather or using our large language model to learn how to make your own longbow or brain tan a deer hide, or how to scout an area. There's the historical wind, there's the journal feature, there's Blue Force Tracker, there's buddy share, buddy pins. There's high resolution mapping, there's LiDAR, and we're building our own mapping engines now where we're going to be able to really change things, how people look at things. So I like to think of it more at the most accurate level. To me, Spartan Forge is intelligence collection and variable analysis for the whitetail hunter. And that was exactly what I did in the military. So that was probably a much longer explanation than what you wanted. But as you probably know now, because you had to hang out with my crazy ass in DeerCamp for a week, I don't have many short answers.
No, and that's actually exactly kind of what I wanted to hear, was kind of everything that stemmed into, you know, how you jumped in and created what you created. Diving back or cutting back over to, you mentioned LiDAR, was that because you guys were the first to offer that canopy removal, correct?
Yep, yeah, we were. And that was actually something I'd done in the military for when we were in Afghanistan almost 10 or 15 years ago. So terrorists in Afghanistan use hill or mountain passes, snow melt paths, goat trails. A lot of the bush in Afghanistan, especially at altitude, can get really gnarly. So there are only certain ways to get through mountains. So we started doing LiDAR collection for the same reason that we do it in Spartan Forge, which was, highlighting kind of those paths and those places that make it easier to walk, which bucks might not always use them, but does almost always do. And if you know where the does are, then you know where the bucks will be, especially come rut time. Sure. Or at least you'll know where to look for scrapes and deploy cameras and that type of thing. And then from there, it's just, if I were a buck that needed to smell this area, how would I move into this area so I could catch the wind on a thermal, or I could catch a prevailing wind or whatever, and scent check a scrape or scent check a doe group. And that's kind of where LiDAR came out of. It was something that we were using Predator drones to collect LiDAR in the mountains of Afghanistan and in the northern part of Iraq, to kind of map all of these places. And also, it's not obvious in the sand sometimes where there's a road, especially with the way that things blow over. But with LiDAR, you can still identify where the driving paths are, ingress and egress routes, that type of thing. So, and I had been using them in a hunting context since 2008, 2009. Oh, so at that time, I was downloading my own tiles, getting my own imagery, and then hosting it in some, ArcGIS or something like that, so I could look at them myself. But yeah, that was the genesis of that. And yeah, we were the first ones to add it, and of course the market has followed. But even to this day, if you look at the quality of the LiDAR that's inside of the other apps and you do a 1-for-1 and compare it with ours, they're still figuring out how to render it or how to use the existing tile services to present it in a way that's palatable for a hunter. And we're about to improve on that big time here in a few months.
Awesome. So with these changes, or with anything that you guys are adding, options and stuff like that, obviously you have a team of well-trained people there, as well as, some pros that are, just killers that are kind of hunting for Spartan Forge, the Bows and the Johnnies. I mean, are you getting some intel and feedback from them guys, especially in like hill country, on your slope angles and your temperature changes and stuff like that? Is some of that coming from the outside as far as intel, or?
Yeah, I depend on them for that. I mean, I'm only one dude, so I mean, well, we were, from 2015 to probably 2018, I was probably the singular input for features and feature gap and feature analysis, feature development. And then as we bring these guys on, we make it part of their contracts. Like we do quarterly calls. But a lot of guys just message me. Like Lee Ellis just messaged me the other day and said, "Hey, I need to know where all the CWD zones are. I was scouting in one and didn't know it." And the DNR were like, "No, it's fine. Just you can't hunt in here." So he didn't have the CWD zone. So we'll have that added here in like a week. So those things, it was CWD zones in one state. We have them in other states. It's just we didn't have them in this one state. So I depend on those guys for all of that because everyone's got like a different way that they approach the deer woods. Like my approach to the deer woods is very simple. Find out where the does are. Find out where the scrapes are that are being laid by bucks near does. Find out how a buck might be scent checking those areas and then get downwind of those areas and set up. That's it. That's 90% of my, and what I think I do well that most people don't do, I think this was borne out with you and Johnny, or at least with Johnny when we were there, is I'll sit a stand for 7 days. Like I will sit a stand for 7 days every day and I won't leave early. I buy into my setup. Johnny's a better hunter than I am, don't get me wrong. But Johnny is instinctual as well. Like when he doesn't feel it, he's out. I don't give a shit about feeling it or not. If I know that there are does and I'm surrounded by does and I know that there are bucks and I know that there's a scrape, I will sit in a spot for 9 days and wait because he will come through. He has to. So, I think like 2 days after you guys were hunting my spot, I think you guys had gotten out at about 11:45, and then at 12:10, Mr. Big came through tracing the doe. And then Johnny did his best to blame it on me. I hope he watches this podcast. That's not how it went down, Bill. That's not what happened, Bill. You told me afternoon, Bill. And I was like, yeah, afternoon at 11:45. Because wasn't it coming at like 12:10? Wasn't it like 12:10 or something?
Yeah, I think we got down around 11:30, and we went smashing to the north and got into. He brought us through the nastiest shit I think I have ever been through.
Sounds like Johnny.
And then while we were in there, he got away. Probably like 45 minutes later, he had stopped, and obviously he had the app open on his phone the whole time. But he stopped and he checked the camera app, and a doe came through at noon. And a shooter came through at 12:12, I think it was.
Yeah, so once I've done the homework, I think probably my strength is a deer hunter, and some people might see it as a weakness because obviously you guys killed in a different spot. So, not saying it doesn't work. All I'm saying is if you were filming with me, Bill Thompson is staying in that spot.
Sure.
Until I've got a conclusive amount of data saying, oh, for some reason all the bucks are in another area. But even then, they're going to come by. Like if you've got a week and you know there are does near you, a buck will come and check that area. It is only a matter of time. So I will stay on those areas. Like when I was in PA, I hunted one scrape in the morning for 7 days in a row. And on the 7th day is when I saw Mr. Big, like the 7th morning. So it also will kill a person because you're walking 1.25 miles around the long way. But for me, it's like, the longer I sit in a stand, here's how I look at it. The longer I sit in a stand and don't see Mr. Big, the better my chances are of eventually seeing Mr. Big.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if he hasn't been by in 4 days, he's due.
Sure.
If there are does near me and he hasn't been by 4 or 5 days, guarantee you it's happening by day 6 or day 7.
Absolutely.
Unless you got beat and you didn't know it. Now, if you see, now when I will switch is when I'm sitting a stand and I see behind me that there's a trail that I didn't find or didn't scout, and I get figured out. And now I'm like, how many times did they come through here and smell me and know that I was here? How many times was I getting beat? Then I might think about switching, but then I'm coming back to that spot 3 days later, and I'm hunting beyond that trail. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure, yep.
And now I'm targeting that trail because they think that they've got a rubric for beating me. So my thing is all about sitting and waiting.
Yeah, and that can be hard, man, especially with those all-day sits like that. It's like, that's grueling on a person. I mean, the day that Johnny killed, we sat dark to dark. I mean, those deer finally didn't come out until about 15 minutes left of light, but I mean,
they came.
It was tough, but yeah, they showed up.
The other thing for people listening, the other thing I compare it to is, well, how hard is it to eat tag soup for the next 7 months? Like, if you told someone, look, you have to sit here for 7 days, but on the seventh day it will happen, then most guys will have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you somehow had a crystal ball and said, look, you need to be in here every day, but on the sixth day it's going to happen, guys will do it no problem.
Yep. Yep.
So it's all about, how difficult is it on you and your ego to eat tag soup for the next 6 months versus sitting in a tree for 6 days. I get it, and I'm not judging people that bounce. I know lots of guys who bounce and have success. I know guys who won't sit a stand for more than 2 days, and then they move on, and that's their thing. It's just that's not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems now it's more and more common for dudes they're sitting a stand for a morning, maybe tops, and then they're gone. It's like, and I do some moving around as well, but I'm kind of lean more toward how you do it. It's just like, you got to give that spot some, especially if you have some sort of intel on it, you have to give that spot some time.
But you also have to know that you're entering and exiting correctly.
Correct.
If you don't know that you're entering and exiting correctly, or if you haven't done the homework, then yeah, by all means, jump. But if you know the spot's good, you're seeing does, you're seeing small bucks, and you've got a good way to walk in and a way to walk out where you're not blowing every deer out of the woods, then you just have to give the spot time.
Yep, exactly. So out there, in that particular spot, when we were in there, in your spot there, we went in there on just a killer morning, high pressure, bluebird, and the elk were going just crazy. With you growing up out there, is that pretty common for them and whitetail to coexist or to be in the same areas, or is it?
I never saw an elk growing up except for one time.
Okay.
Elk in North Dakota has been like a last 10 years thing.
Okay.
When I was a kid, if a hunter, like I remember when I was a kid, and I think we talked about this, when I was a kid, if someone saw an elk or a moose in the field, it'd be on the front page of the newspaper. They'd be like,
Sure.
oh, wow, look at this. Big elk walking the field here in North Dakota. And that's crazy, right? They're just like making the front page of the newspaper because an elk walked through a field. And even 7 years ago hunting there, it was just whitetail. Sometimes you'd see an elk, sometimes you'd see moose. Now I see, especially with my deer cameras, I see more elk than I do whitetail.
That's crazy.
Which is nuts.
And what do you attribute that to? Is it just how they're managing, or is it
they're not allowing people to kill them? Like, I know guys who have been trying to draw for an elk tag for 20 years.
Resident? Yeah, you have to be a resident there, correct?
Yeah, you have to be a resident there, yeah. But I know guys that have been trying to draw for 20 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, they could allow more killing of cows. They could allow more killing of bulls. I'm not sure if they know exactly how many herds there are in North Dakota at this time. Some of them moved down from Canada. Some of them moved from the west. Some of them moved south, even. I don't know how many go east. I don't know how many there are out in, like, I know there are some moose. I don't know about elk. I know there's some elk in Minnesota, but, like, is there a lot in northern Minnesota?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think many of them go east. But certainly from the north, south, and west, we get elk moving all over or patterning all over. And I've got GPS data where they go as far as, like, Dickinson.
Okay.
They move a long ways.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's been the last 10 years, and it's quite nuts. I mean, I don't know I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Because obviously elk are cool, but if we can't hunt them, then what good are they?
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But it drives whitetail out of areas when elk are concentrated in areas, because obviously they're competing for food and resources and water and all of that type of thing. So I would say the jury for me is still out on whether or not I feel positively about that, but it's cool. I mean, I don't know if you heard it, but I get down from the stand a couple of times and you hear screaming like right on top of you or right next to you or right near you, and you might have to spend 3 or 4 days in Montana before you hear something that close to you, but the elk are just right on top of you.
Yeah, man, we had one come from the north through that through that thick stuff from the north there, and he must have been within 40 yards. We heard him crashing through there, and then he let out a bugle right there. I got it on video and stuff. It was pretty cool. First time I had heard it. So
they're a cool animal. I've hunted elk. I've not successfully taken one with a bow. I think I showed you the video where I screwed up on one a couple years ago with Drew. But it just doesn't get my blood pumping like whitetail. Because if you've got the land, you can call and find them and walk into them and get on them. There's something about whitetail where they just don't want to be found. Very rare. Like, you can bring them in sometimes, rattling or a grunt call or something. In North Dakota, I don't really blind grunt call because I find I get winded more often than not. I don't ever rattle. I know guys have had success with rattling. I don't do it. I don't tend to use a call unless I see the deer. Okay. And they're walking away. If they're moving in, then I'm going to shut up and wait. But if they take the wrong route away from me or something, then I might hit them with a grunt call. But in Pennsylvania, I blind grunt call all the time because in Pennsylvania, there is a calorie requirement if they want to wind me correctly. You know what I'm saying? Like, they work the hill. They stay in the top third of these mountains. They might cross from one mountain to the other, but then they're in that top third. So when they're on the side of the mountain and they hear you on the other side, they're just going to take the easiest route. Sure. So you can blind grunt a lot. I find, and I could be wrong, but I find you can blind grunt call deer and not get winded as often in PA versus North Dakota. I feel like blind grunting is just a way of letting deer know that you're there. And I could be wrong. People could say everyone's got their own kind of way that they do it, but that's the way that I see it. And I've seen lots of GPS data from Kansas, Nebraska, Minnesota, where bucks frequently will wind a call or a sound before they go into it. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, even that morning when we were in there hunting, we had one skirt upwind of us, and it wasn't super aggressive, but, Johnny gave a couple soft grunts, and that deer stopped. He was buried in by a blowdown, and he watched down in the bottom there for 5 minutes, I bet you. Yeah. And the only way for him to get downwind of us was either to go way out and around through all that thick stuff to get behind us, or come out and expose himself, and he didn't want nothing to do with that. So
yeah, and so when I see them and they're not in a good, if I see the buck in North Dakota, then I will blind grunt them, because sometimes you'll catch them trying to get downwind of you, and before they get downwind, then you can loose the arrow. Sure. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's a preference thing. Everybody's got their preference.
For sure. So yeah, with I know you guys are constantly working on stuff and adding stuff and tweaking the app and stuff like that. Are there any things on the radar that you can discuss right now that you guys are working on, or are there some new advancements and stuff that are coming up here?
Yeah, I mean, some of them aren't as sexy when you describe them, but I think when people see them, they will be. So we're doing some stuff with like 3D representation on the map, where it's going to look much more like a video game. So when like you're using LiDAR, like it's obvious you're still using a mapping app. And if you look at something that's like, say, using like the Unreal Engine, which is an engine for video game development, it's a smoother way of interacting with terrain and looking at things. And we're building it ourselves instead of using someone else's. Like, everyone uses Mapbox. We've built our own tile service, and we're building our own 3D meshes in order to make it a much more seamless experience. And then we're doing some stuff with camera ingestion, and we're doing some stuff with, little fixes like being able to color code your drawing, your measurement, your drawings, removing labels, different color coding on the pins, different ways that the pins present. Just tightening up some stuff. Like, we've only been in the market for about 3 years. I'd say most apps take 6 or 8 years until they're polishing. We're going to start polishing over this summer, and just kind of getting everything really looking well and solid, and then introducing some of these different mapping presentations, and we'll do some cool stuff with like 3D imaging, cool things with mapping deer on trail cameras, and suggesting routes and suggesting places to go scout, stuff that we were trying to get to like 5 years ago, But 5 years ago when we started doing this, I just wanted to be a machine learning company. I didn't even want to get into the mapping space. But every mapping company that I talked to, they wanted to give me, pennies for what I was making. Because no one had really, when I was pitching companies like Basemap or Onyx or Huntwise or whatever, you name them, all the ones that I pitched, they didn't know what AI was. They didn't know what a 3D mesh was. They didn't know what a raster was. They didn't have a way. I mean, imagine somebody trying to sell you on AI in 2015, 2016. You'd be like, right. Sounds cool, bro. Like, keep it going. And now it's what everyone's doing. Like, I think Basemap just released their first large language model. So we're doing a lot of that stuff with that coming forward. So basically tightening up, making the map funner to interact with and more aesthetically pleasing, and then kind of just putting some polish on the rims and getting the dashboard looking better, that type of thing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I haven't got to utilize like the AI portion of it really much yet, but obviously looking at diving into that further or more. But
it's the thing I get the most messages about is guys are like, I heard you on a podcast, you said something along the lines of just trust the AI and try it, and then they wait until they get their full range day to move into their best set, and then they send me a picture. And I've got tons of messages on, like, here's one right here from this morning. Like, guy gives his testimonial. You probably can't see it, but guy gives his testimonial, bunch of pictures of some bucks that he had. Looks like he got a really good slammer here. I don't think you can see that really, but let me see if I can.
Yep.
But, I mean, I get these every day. So I know the AI is good. I know the AI works. We trained it. So, yeah, that's. I would say the AI is probably the thing I get talked to. Like once when people see it, they're not quite sure how to metabolize it. And then when they use it, they're like, "Oh man, I didn't know what I was missing out on."
For sure. Yeah, like I say, I haven't really dove into that part of it. Is it basically kind of like, and not to relate it to like a ChatGPT, but it's just like you kind of put in your circumstances or what you're hunting or what you're looking at, and then it kind of just develops somewhat of a helpful game plan from there? Or is it?
No, it's a full time series geospatial look at deer movement. So what we did was, I'm doing this damn thing again where I'm not zoomed in on you. Sorry. I'm not going to stop the podcast again. People are going to have to look at blurry me. Like I got some Vaseline on the screen here or something. So it's a time series and geospatial AI that we started developing it in 2017. So what we do is we take caller GPS data. Researchers run caller GPS data. They tag a deer for whatever purposes they want to take a deer for. Fawn recruitment, excursion measuring, buck to doe ratio, how far they travel, what their ranges look like. And we identified, when an app tells you that deer are going to be moving at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I can almost certainly tell you that app is full of shit. Because not every deer in the woods gets up and moves at 10 a.m. They're not on a clock where everybody hears the dinner bell and then they all get up. That's not how it works. But what they do is respond to environmental pressures, mainly the weather, and then elements of the weather like humidity, wind direction, determines things like pattern, which is one of the things we develop for. And then the other thing is, instead of saying deer are going to be moving a lot, that's not actually very helpful. Because what does that mean? Are they just going to be moving a lot in one area? Are they going to be moving a lot over many areas? So what we determined from the GPS data is that deer, writ large, have, like, what's their core areas, which is where they spend most of their daylight time. So you can think of it as like a target. So you have a red target with the bullseye in the middle. And you might have a white line outside of that, and then you have a big black line outside of that. So you have a target with 3 different concentric circles. So that core area is where they spend their daylight bedding hours. So they're getting up, changing beds, taking a crap, maybe getting a drink of water, laying back down, and they're crepuscular animals. So they spend their daylight hours in one spot. And then they have transition areas, which is they've left the bedding area. They're not at a destination, but they're in between. So you can think of that as like a rub line or a staging area, or it's an area they don't spend a lot of time in, but they move through. All right. It might be for a buck, it might be, the spot between two doe bedding areas. There's a rub line between there. That's transition.
Sure.
Then there's full range, and that's just like the outside of this. That's the whole target, and that is everywhere that deer has put a GPS spot on the map saying deer was here. So what those usually look like when you plot all of them, and it's kind of a strange thing, but I've said it before on podcasts, it always seems to be like a big egg. And in the bottom of the egg is a core area or a few core areas. And then there's the rest of the egg. It's always shaped like a elliptical type of shape. So what we characterized was core area, transition, and then full range. So okay. a full range day you can think of like you're driving by a field to work and you never see deer in that field. And then one day at 1 p.m. you're driving by it and there's 30 deer in the field. And you're like, sure. Well, what the heck happened there? The app would characterize that GPS movement as a full range day. The deer are going to be all over their range. Okay. So when you look at the app prediction, it'll tell you, are they in core, transition, or full range? Core area means you need to know where they're bedding and you need to get in on bedding. So if you're hunting a buck early season, you got core area predictions, you need to be as close to bedding as you can be. But then transition area means you can set up off of bedding or between the doe areas or whatever. And then full range could be set up anywhere there's a funnel inside of that entire range, and you'll probably see deer throughout the day.
Okay.
That's the best way. And then the pattern, which is highly dependent on wind, is deer learn how to wind areas. In North Dakota, it's west and northwest, and then maybe you'll get a south. But the south is 5% of the winter. Rest of the winter, 95% of the time, you're seeing a west and a northwest wind. So the deer pick up how to scent check areas before they move into them, or they have normal trails that are associated with that wind. And then when the wind does something weird, like in North Dakota, it goes to like an east wind or a southeast wind or a north-northeast wind or whatever. Now deer have to take different trails in order to scent check the same areas. So the AI predicts against that. It predicts against movement, where they are in their range, and then if their movement's going to be typical or abnormal or very abnormal. And that's kind of so I'll put it this way, if you're hunting a field and you always see deer enter from the southeast part of the field, they're using a northwest wind to scent check the field and then move in. On a very abnormal day, they might come in that field from the north, or they might come in that field from the west, or if you have a backup trail on a full range day, then you might be hunting off that field. Whereas if you have a core area day and normal movement, then you need to be getting closer to that bedding, where that bedding is.
Sure.
Be the best way to put it.
Okay, I was kind of wondering how that linked together, because Johnny had referenced the abnormal movement and stuff like that a few times when we were out there, and I didn't know that it was able to take in like those wind change considerations and stuff like that. I could see that being deadly.
Yeah, and then when you're in the app, there's a little I button next to the predictions, and it explains the predictions to you on each one. Man, this is really annoying that this thing is doing this to us. I'm sorry.
And we're about at an hour here, and I don't want to keep you all night long, so.
And if people want to reach out, they can we're on Instagram, Spartan.Forge. We're on Facebook. If you send messages asking about the app, I spend a couple hours every morning answering them. So if you want input on the app, or if you have problems or compliments or whatever, just questions, hit me up there. And yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody that comes through.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
Well, there you have it, guys. Awesome to talk with Bill, and awesome to hear about. I haven't heard officially kind of how the whole idea of Spartan Forge came about, and what kind of drove him into the creation part as far as starting it and the idea behind it. So that was pretty cool to hear. Awesome to talk to him. The guy has a vast of knowledge and just awesome hunter, and just altogether kind of an awesome guy just to kind of be involved with. So was definitely my pleasure to talk with him and to spend some time with them guys over in North Dakota last week. So if you guys have not tried the Spartan Forge app yet, I highly, highly, highly recommend you guys go download it, check it out. I believe there's even a free trial version that you could check out, but just after we've been using it for a year now, I mean, everything on it just seems so much more accurate and so much more user-friendly than some other apps that we had tried before. So highly recommend giving it a shot. For sure, check out their version of the LiDAR. That they were the kind of the pioneers of it, and that's what really got me jumping into it. That and just hearing Bill's background, being a service member for all the years that he was, and all of his team. I believe a bunch of the team are also veterans as well. So just hearing some of the stories, earlier this year, I believe it was last spring here, when those disasters hit down south, he had gone down to there, put Spartan Forge on everybody's devices for them to try and help out as far as the rescue missions, and to get some of these people located and to get people supplies that were needed out there and stuff like that. And he did it all, on his own back and out of his own pocket. So that just kind of tells you the type of person he is. And, by hearing that and stuff, that was good enough cause for me to want to be involved with them guys, and to kind of want to talk with Bill and everybody over there at Spartan Forge. So check it out, download it. I don't think you're going to be sorry at all, guys. Thank you, Bill, if you check this out. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the rest of our partners and sponsors. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys, and we'll check back in with you next week. See ya.